Welcome, everybody. The time is now 6:30, and the April 16th, 2026 meeting of the Development Review Board is now called to order. The Development Review Board is a quasi-judicial volunteer resident board that upholds standards and procedures as defined in the Winooski zoning ordinances. These ordinances, officially the Unified Land Use and Development Regulations, are created by the Winooski Planning Commission and based on the Municipal Development Master Plan, also the work of the Planning Commission. We review and make decisions on subdivisions, site plans, conditional uses, variances, and appeals of the zoning administrator's determinations. Our deliberations and votes always take place in closed executive session after testimony has been taken on all applications. The DRB has authority through Vermont state statute and ensures due process, protects the rights of applicants and the rights of the public to participate in proposals for land development in the city of Winooski. Appeals of decisions made by this board are heard by the Vermont Superior Court Environmental Division and ultimately the Vermont Supreme Court. My name is David Weisberger. I'm the chair of the DRB. Aaron Guyette is the vice chair. Winooski's Development Review Board also consists of Jordan Matt, Ryan Wade, and Felipe Hoyos. Riley Livermore, who can't be here today. Oh, sorry, you are here. And Chris Wieland are alternates who may participate in questions and deliberation but do not vote unless a regular member is absent. Okay, we have two items on the agenda tonight. A public hearing on the preliminary subdivision for 50 Park Street and the sketch plan review for Gabe's Way. I will now entertain any proposals for changes to the agenda. Not hearing any. We will move on. Vermont's open meeting law grants an opportunity for public comment at every public meeting. If anyone in attendance would like to comment about anything that is not on our current agenda, this is your opportunity. Please.
Thank you. My name is Kate Coffey. I live on South Street. I'm a registered architect and a member of the American Institute of Architects. I was here for the city council meeting where I asked a number of questions, and I will repeat those here because I didn't actually get a response. I'm asking that the city respectfully consider to stop any administrative review of projects by the Planning and Zoning Department. I'm asking for a transcript of the March 26th Planning Commission meeting to be made available to the public. I believe that public meetings, we should have the transcripts available. I also asked at that meeting that the city council consider reversing their decision to eliminate the home ownership portion of the Armory, now 50 Park Street project, even if it means fewer units of a more appropriate scale or smaller height than what was being considered. I further ask for transparency on how the ownership portion was taken out of the project. I know that there was a special city council meeting. It took place on a Friday night in February, where the executive session happened before the public comment, and members of CHT were part of the executive session. I also respectfully ask that both projects tonight not be moved forward until the Planning Commission and Zoning Department complete their project on typologies and characters of housing projects. Further, I asked for clarification on when and what the requirements are when, for setbacks, when there's a street versus a driveway. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Any comments on items not on the agenda?
Hi, my name is Michelle Wheeler. I live at 85 Dion Street. I had a comment about 12 Franklin Street, which is not on tonight's
Okay.
agenda, right? So
Yes.
this would be the time to do that.
Yes.
In learning about the errors made in zoning for the setbacks for the driveway and in talking to the property owners about that, there are issues with the pitch roof line and runoff coming into their basement now, which cannot be remediated because the driveway's in, the building is there. And I'm just wondering if the city will be responsible for doing the remediation work on that particular unit, on the family-owned unit, for harm and damages that are being caused to 10 Franklin Street because of the zoning problems or the zoning error that was made in permitting 12 Franklin in, maybe in too soon, maybe like not enough time or thought or plans or looking at diagrams were made. But now the owners at 10 Franklin are going to be living with that forever. And if it continues to be a problem because of the narrowness of the driveway, the inability to have a relatively decent area to be putting the snow or anything like that, that particular family is adversely affected. And they shouldn't have to foot the cost of fixing problems that were not there before that oversized building was put in next to them. So that's all I had to say about 12 Franklin. Are these for tonight?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Any further comments on items not on the agenda tonight? Okay, hearing none, seeing none, we will move on. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the previous meeting's minutes. And I would entertain a motion to do that.
I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes.
Seconded.
Okay, any discussion? Nothing? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Okay, motion passes. All right, before we commence with the public hearings on tonight's agenda, we'd like to swear in anybody who would like to speak or make comments on any of the applications under consideration. If you intend to make a public comment, please raise your hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you will tell the truth under the pains and penalties of perjury? Thank you. If you haven't signed in on the sign-in sheet, please do that. At this point, we'll open the public hearing for the first item of business, which is the application for a preliminary subdivision review at 50 Park Street. As an employee of one of the design firms involved in the project, I will be recusing myself from this application, from this item, and our vice chair will take the gavel.
Okay, thank you. So typically our process is to invite the applicant up. Applicant gets to speak. Following the applicant's presentation, then we will accept comments from the public. Maybe just a couple of things to consider for the public comment period. When you're making comments, address the board, not the applicant. And I think maybe the other thing just to consider, if you're planning to make a public comment, this board the purpose of the board is to interpret the code that's in front of us, the land development code. We don't write the code. That's the planning commission that writes the code. So if you have issues that are with the code, the planning commission. So maybe just keep that in mind. All right, with that, please introduce yourselves and make a presentation.
Thanks. Hi, I'm Miranda Lescaz from the Champlain Housing Trust.
I'm Greg Dixon from Krebs and Lansing Consulting Engineers.
David Roy with Weeman Lanphier Architects.
Eske Dorj with Cass, also a Winooski resident.
Great, I'll start us off. We're glad to present our proposed project to you tonight to create 3 and 4 bedroom affordable homes in Winooski. Our team has listened to feedback from DRB members and community members since we started with sketch plan review in September. And we've revised the project to reflect that feedback as detailed in our cover memo of the application tonight. We remain committed to the project and to working with the city to address the need for more affordable housing in Winooski. Just a quick intro before I'll pass it on to Greg and Dave for more detail. But the site is a state designated neighborhood development area, which is a status that the Planning Commission and Council work to apply to the state for, to reflect the city's intent to address housing needs at these locations. Winooski zoning regulations define our project as priority housing because it meets a critical city need for affordable, large, family-sized homes. Though zoning gives incentives for priority housing, our project doesn't use the bonus 4th story that would be allowed for those types of projects. The revised site plan in your packet now includes 4 3-story buildings that all front Park Street and LaFountain Streets. They each have 6 apartments for a total of 24 apartments. They include 2 2-bedrooms, 16 3-bedrooms, and 6 4-bedroom apartments. One of the buildings has a manager's office, and a second building has a bike storage room. We're proposing 44 parking spaces, which is more parking than the 25 required by zoning. And then our portfolio suggests that would be needed because that seemed to be a concern for neighbors. Without buildings to the rear of the site, all the water and sewer connections can be made through short lines tying into the water and sewer mains on Park and LaFountain. The stormwater feature is now smaller due to there being fewer homes than initially proposed. And we've moved it well away from the rear property line. We will be further detailing the stormwater feature as we're able to dig test pits and design for state permitting and final plan. And we'll continue to coordinate with DPW as we design it. The remainder of the site will be open space, and we'll build a new sidewalk the full length of the block and incorporate street trees along both streets and install a new looped water line as requested by DPW. We're seeking preliminary approval tonight, allowing us to continue the design, seeking funding, detailing the project for final plan review. And we feel this project creates needed family homes in a family neighborhood, walkable to city amenities and bus lines. And we look forward to them helping to address the city's housing challenges of affordability and availability. I'll pass it on to my engineer, Greg Dixon, for more specifics, and we'd be happy to answer any questions. Thanks.
Yeah, so after the past meetings, we did get a lot of feedback from DPW, which we tried to address with this submission here. As Miranda mentioned, a lot of the connections for water and sewer are now direct from the building straight onto the right-of-way, which was a desire of the DPW. We've also been working with them closely on the stormwater aspect, which does need a state permit because it has half an acre of redeveloped impervious. And so we've been working with them to kind of help them understand sort of what the project is looking to do. And we will continue to do that as we push forward in the design. We also gave some information on monitoring wells that we have on site right now to kind of determine an ordinary high water table, which is outlined on C0.00. And I believe Miranda mentioned most of what I was going to say, but obviously the site plan has changed quite a bit from the last project. So I'm, again, happy to answer any questions about the site stuff.
Good evening, everybody. David Roy with Weeman Lanphier Architects. My 2 predecessors here have mentioned many of the things in terms of the physicality of the massing of the buildings. An important thing to note is we still have entrances to the buildings along both Park Street and LaFountain Street. We've really moved the massing or the height, the bigger buildings away from the existing structures that are on LaCasse Street. And that's just an important aspect in terms of kind of separation, distance, and privacy for the neighbors.
I'm here to answer any environmental questions, either the audience or the board might have, but specifically, I just wanted to address the comments we received from the city's engineer about potential concerns for contamination as the property currently stands undeveloped. Just to summarize, the contamination that we found very relatively light PAH, which is products of incomplete combustion, and then we also found PCBs in the soil. It was quite light, only at the very shallow surface, and we also have grass on the property currently. So to answer any questions about potential danger currently to anyone who would be walking their dog or anything like that, there is presently no danger of that, specifically because we have grass cover over it, and the standards that the Vermont Department of Environmental Protection and Health set for exposure to these contaminants are for residential property. So this is if you live on this property currently. You know, your children play in the grass, they play with the soil, you do gardening, that's where you would be exposed to these over pretty much a lifetime or several years. So the levels that we have now are quite low, they're just barely above the residential standard. And when the property will be developed, we'll be cleaning these things up and getting them shipped off-site and then putting clean soil back in. But happy to answer any questions anyone may have.
Thank you. All right, any questions from the board?
Yeah, I'll say the one question I had, it seems like the only thing that wasn't resolved in your response was the hedge or the fence versus the, I guess there was a request to put some vegetation as well. And so just a few more context for that would be helpful.
Sure, yeah. As we've gotten comments up until now, we had proposed a fence along the western and northern property boundaries, 6-foot fence, and thought that that was best for providing privacy between this site and abutters. There was also a suggestion that maybe in addition, we install a hedge. And we found that it's difficult to maintain a fence when the hedge is right next to it. And hard to maintain that hedge as well. So we suggest that a fence is best for property, but if instead, if the DRB suggests that a hedge would be preferable, we could consider it.
Thank you.
I'm curious, that comment about the hedge came from Department of Public Works. Have neighbors stated a preference one way or the other?
Not that I'm clear on.
Okay.
Thanks.
Any other questions? No? Good. Jordan? Good.
No, I'm good.
Good? Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Okay, at this time, we will accept comments from the public. Come on up. Please state your name.
Jean Silva.
And then give your comment.
So I live on the Fountain Street. I lived in Winooski about 30 years. One time at Hickock and now on the Fountain Street. And I understand this issue with housing on the Armory is quite a sensitive topic. My understanding for myself is I welcome it. I welcome it for a couple of reasons. Taxes are going up. Our property taxes, school taxes, they're very high. We need more homes. Spread it out. We also have a city that has boundaries. We can't expand, so we have to make more housing within the city. We have agency here that is willing to take on this project. It would be very little cost to Winooski. It's also putting in all the plumbing that's going to be needed. Well, you're going to tear up LaFountain Street anyway. You know, where you have that project ahead of us. You get that done at the same time. You only have to dig up the streets once. So I think that this project is something we need. We also need to have more children in Winooski, because I'm old. We need kids. So there's my point. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Nicole Mace, and I am currently the chair of the Winooski School Board. I'm also a member of the Champlain Housing Trust Board of Directors. I represent the city of Winooski, actually, on the Champlain Housing Trust Board of Directors, and I serve on the Winooski Housing Authority Board. But I really want to speak, not behalf of the Winooski School Board per se, but to reflect back to you conversations we've had as a school board in terms of our identification of family housing as a high priority for the district and why we believe the council has moved in that direction appropriately. So back in 2023, the school board adopted a resolution calling for the production and preservation of family housing. It was in response to the mass displacement of families who were residing at 300 Main Street and the decision of those property owners to begin a slow process of evicting those tenants. And we had a number of families who were impacted, a number of students, and they were in significant numbers members of our refugee and immigrant community. And so the school board adopted a resolution in 2025 calling on the number of different parties of interest, the landlords at 300 Main, the state of Vermont, but the city of Winooski to take action to update zoning ordinances to expedite the production of family housing. This project at Park Street is a manifestation of that work and absolutely meets a critical need. In this past December, I've come to, I think this might be my 5th meeting on this project, but this past December, 3 students came and spoke about their personal experiences with loss of housing, friends being displaced from the community, families leaving not just Winooski, but the state of Vermont, because we simply are not producing affordable family housing at a pace that is needed to keep who we have, much less grow the population that we desperately need to grow if we're going to be an affordable, inclusive, and welcoming place to be. So as it happens, I'm also a neighbor of this project. I live around the corner. So with that hat on, I'll say we would welcome this type of development. It is a family neighborhood. Family housing is appropriate and welcome. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello again. I'm Kate Kappelman-Sens. I'm a Winooski resident. I'm also a Champlain Housing Trust homeowner in Winooski, and I'm on the volunteer board as a resident member. And I just want to first address the discussion of this and other development projects that have been on Front Porch Forum lately. And I want to encourage the DRB and Winooski residents to consider the Park Street project as a separate concern from the private development discussion. This project is being constructed and managed by a nonprofit organization, Champlain Housing Trust, whose mission is to strengthen communities through the development and stewardship of permanently affordable homes and community assets. In Winooski, this stewardship includes shared equity homes, rental properties, and going on now, the renovation of the O'Brien Center. These activities support the City of Winooski's strategic vision to ensure a mix of quality housing that maintains and enhances Winooski's unique sense of place and supports the needs of the entire community. The city and school district have identified that affordable housing is a prioritized need for Winooski, and the Park Street project takes actionable steps to address this need. CHT, Champlain Housing Trust, has attended multiple DRB hearings, has listened to community feedback, and has responded with design changes that reduce the scale of the development and the impact on the neighborhood's skyline. They are and will continue to work with the Department of Public Works and other relevant city departments to address infrastructure concerns in the building process. The DRB's role is to make decisions based on the city's zoning regulations and master plan. This project meets all zoning laws and fits within the master plan to address housing demand and balanced housing stock. Please approve this project to move forward so the Armory site can be utilized as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you.
And there are also people online, so just want to make sure that you keep in mind.
Thanks.
How we doing? Jack Myers. So, first thing is, it does not meet all zoning regulations. Section 2.6 residential ARA, lowest density neighborhood in the city of Winooski does not permit this. They do not have enough street footage for this property. And I'm shocked that they did away with the home ownership, which they're famous for, which is great. So they did away with the home ownerships to keep the 3-story buildings there. So the street footage does not allow it. And again, look at the zoning rule, 2.6 residential ARA, is zoning rule, does not allow it. The other thing is, the last time I was here, and he was right, they did not ask for the city for any help in the envelope of the property. The envelope of the property is the boundary of the property. I believe, they could correct me if I'm wrong, I believe they're still asking for the city to pay for any infrastructure outside the envelope of the property, which means any curbs, anything in the city streets and anything like that. So any hookups and everything like that, we're gonna have to pay for it. He didn't lie last time when he said envelope, because the envelope property, as you know, is the boundary lines of the property. They're still asking, I believe, and if they want to tell them different tonight, I'll believe it. So I think there's a lot of things that the board really needs to look at a little further. The contamination site, nothing's made public. I think it's worse than what we've seen. No writing. There's no public information on the contamination site. The communication between them and the city has been not been public for a lot of the stuff. I just think a lot of the things that are going on in that project, 3-story building, why did they drop these buildings down like we all asked to 2 stories and keep the home ownership up front? The only part of that project that made sense was the ownership up front. And they did away with them and kept the 3 stories. That's like Franklin Street. You guys all know about Franklin Street, we don't dwell on that. 3 stories in that neighborhood does not fit. So the home ownership was part of this project, was made the project make sense. So cut the rentals back, home ownership on the Fountain Street. That's what made sense of this project, to me. At the 24, then they added more rental. But on a bunch of property abutting it, which near there, 3 stories up there does not make sense in that neighborhood. So, but I think the board, in my opinion, I think the board should table it tonight and do a little more investigation of what's going on and really check into it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. My name is Joe Gamache. I live on Mansion Street in Winooski, and I'm here as a representative of my brother, Richard Gamache, who is the abutting landowner to the Armory's property for approximately 220 feet on the northerly side. In looking at the plans today, I noticed, and if I'm not in the right forum, with you guys, let me know. But I noticed that there are 24 units that are all going to be serviced by HVAC units. Each unit has its own. So, for instance, Building D, which is the closest to my brother, has on its northerly side, depending upon which plan you look at, there are either 4 HVAC units or 3 HVAC units directly pointed at his house. Now, I don't claim to have any idea about decibel levels or what is acceptable or what is not, but certainly if you have 24 of these units, I would hope that somebody would look into the effect in terms of noise, in terms of environmental potential pollution, in terms of diminution to the value of the owners, of the neighbors that are in this area. I asked my brother, I said, did anyone from Champlain Trust come and ask for your opinion on any of this stuff or want to talk to you about any concerns you had? And he said no. And he's not the type that would come before this forum or go down and want to talk to them. So I'm simply here to ask you that if the project is going to go forward, that much more investigation be done to determine what's going to happen in terms of the issues that I just mentioned to you guys. And any help, any attention you could give us would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll do some online, right?
Yep.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, hey, I just joined the topic that I wanted to talk about was already addressed with the privacy fence and/or hedge. I think a fence would be better to deter foot traffic.
Sorry, can you just state your name, please?
Yeah, I'm sorry. My name is Evan Fuller. I live on Minnesota Street and have for nearly a decade.
Thank you.
And just the topic was already covered, so I appreciate you reaching out to me, and that's all.
Thank you.
I'll just add that one other person also commented in the chat about the fence. So,
They were in favor of?
yes.
Okay. Yeah, in the back. You can go next.
Hi, my name is Marnie Owen. I've lived in Winooski for 20 years, and I live on Hickok Street, not near the project, but I'm also the chair of the Winooski Housing Authority Board. Our board has been advocating for this project from the beginning when the state first announced plans to sell the armory or jettison the armory. As another commenter pointed out, we have boundaries of the city. We have only so much space. This project represents a really unique opportunity for us to build desperately needed family housing. As a member of the board of the Housing Authority, this is something we're confronting all the time. Long wait lists and a dysfunctional federal government that can't even get budgets to the Housing Authority. So any opportunity for more housing in this community is desperately needed, and I urge you to approve the project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, get coffee, Mansfield Street. First, I want to say thank you so much for all the changes that have come about. A lot of great progress, I think, from the first time we saw the project, and especially the comments from the city engineer were really helpful to get us to the place that we are now. I do feel strongly that home ownership was a very important part of the project, and is something that I wish for everyone. Of course, if you have a home, you know that it comes with pluses and minuses, but taking that portion out is, I think it's really unfortunate, and some previous commenters did comment, and it is, I think, true. No one objected to this scale and style and character of the smaller duplexes that were in the front of the building. I think that the city has actually done, has had some research from outside entities, and I don't know that it's true that our taxes are going to be going down because of this project. I think that the data is out there, and I am not an economist, nor have I seen this data firsthand, that services go up, and you know, therefore taxes go up. So I think that if the data is available, that it should be made public, and my notes. You know, I have sat in this chair many times over the last probably 10 years, talking about Manso Street and the lack of sidewalk. I brought that up here, and I'm so happy that Chittenden, or the Housing Trust, is also talking about people using bus lines, but Dion Street and Manso Street are discontinuous. They do not have sidewalks to East Allen. This is a known, to quote Donald Rumsfeld. And there's no plan to fix what's been a way of life on Manso Street for many years, since the city whatever building and the Summit building next door got built. I think that the city, while I don't want my taxes to go up for sidewalks, perhaps that there's something that the city can do to capture grants or some other way to get a sidewalk on Manso Street, so that people are not walking in the street as they do now, and they have been. These developments, the city building and the I think it's Casavan, or no, Park Terrace, have contributed to additional neighbors and cars and pedestrians on these streets, and to just ignore the problem, which will get worse with more new neighbors, and hopefully they are walking to bus stops. So I'm hoping that the DRB can work with the city council to make this happen. In addition, the Planning Commission, I believe, is meeting next Thursday to have a second discussion with the outside consultant on typologies, which will address some of the changes to remove character of the area, which have been recently removed. And I'm hoping that porches will be on there, and I'm happy to see, you know, I saw some porches, depending on what version I looked here, but, you know, windows and porches and things that make buildings approachable to the neighbors and make people want to live there. And you know, a porch that's 3 feet deep is not really a porch. Thank you.
Thank you. Come on up.
Good evening, and thanks for your time. My name is Irene Webster, and I'm a Winooski resident. And I just wanted to speak about a gap that I am noticing in the room, because in Winooski there are very many refugee families who have been resettled here from various places, all parts of the world. And I know language is key. But I feel that, their needs are not being addressed because they come in large families, and much of the available housing is very inadequate. You'll find there are 1 or 2 bedrooms for a family of more than 5 people. And, the more you have in your family, then the more you have to pay. There are kids who have to stop school and go look for work. So that's just one aspect, and you can imagine the repercussions for that one family. At the same time, the most affected by these conditions are not in the room. So my question is, how are their needs being represented in decisions like this project? And if we are planning for the future of this city, we have to make sure that families already living here are those arriving, and that their needs are being reflected, not just in reports, but the actual outcomes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, come on.
Hello everyone, thanks for your time. My name is Ruth Steinmetz. I am a resident of Winooski. I live in Winooski Falls, and the former chair of the Inclusion and Belonging Commission, and I also consult with the city of Winooski on New American resident interests. Echoing what Irene was saying, I want everyone to just notice who's in the room and who is not in the room, who's at the table and who's not at the table. I also want everyone to notice the language that is being used to describe this project, and were it another project, say, I don't know, a golf course or a luxury unit, would the discourse be different? I also want there to be just a bigger breakdown of the historical past of rhetoric and language, and it is very important that we break down these things. I think it is very telling that Winooski has always been a working class city and a middle class town, and it is not by accident that we're pit against each other in these states where middle class is pointing towards lower class as taking away their resources, when there is a higher class that is hoarding resources. And so it is incumbent upon us to be an example where we're not fighting over resources. We have to share. Yes, there has to be some pain in sharing, but there is joy in sharing as well. I think the long-term benefits of sharing resources far outweigh the very short-term pain that everyone is going to experience. And even if there is some language on, CHT taking a bigger share of the cost and all that, and the city having to take some, and there's going to be tax. Even coming back to this conversation of tax, why are we constantly talking about property taxes when we need to tax the rich so that we have more resources and we're not squabbling over the rising cost of living? I think we are being very distracted in the rhetoric, and we're missing the point. And the point is our future, our children are hurting. They're being misplaced, they're being displaced. My family is being displaced. I'm a hardworking business owner, and I have had to put down my work because I'm in a position where I can speak up for my brothers and sisters in the community, and so I decided to do that, in addition to me just working to put food on the table. And that is a pain point that a lot of people are experiencing, and we're doing this out of need. It is not out of, got off at work and I have some time and so I can talk about and come and complain about the pain that I'm feeling. I'm not minimizing anybody's pain. I know taxes are high, I know cost of living is high, people are struggling, and it is a spectrum of struggles. And we should not vilify one group over the other on their pain, but we need to put aside the whole weighing of whose pain is more worthy to be talked about, and just put everyone at the same level where we are actually speaking about these families with the dignity that they deserve. I feel like a lot of the discourse with the homeowners and the people who are talking about property, they have so much passion because you understand the loss of dignity that you would potentially face should you lose that home, should you not be able to meet your mortgage costs and your cost of living. And so the people who are actually in that place of like being disenfranchised, give them more space, give them more room. And it hurts you a little bit, but it helps the other people, the other person more. And I think those are the kinds of things that when you're at your deathbed, would you be proud of what you did at this room with this issue? That's the other thing I want to say. I think this is a pivotal time for everyone, and we need to think in deeper layers other than what we're seeing at face value. There's so much more nuance to this whole issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Evening, Board. My name's Matt Lawless. I live at 16 George Street. I got to start with a disclaimer that I work as the town manager over in Shelburne, and my comments here are as a neighbor in Winooski and not representing the town. My wife and I moved here because the house was walkable to the school. She's a teacher at the Winooski schools, and we love our walkable neighborhood and lifestyle here. I want to be able to share that lifestyle with more folks. More families deserve to have what we have. I'm pretty impressed with this project, the team and the whole process through it. I have the highest respect for the CHT staff and city staff. I trust them completely. These are also top-notch, award-winning architects, and I like what they've done here. It's a tasteful plan that enhances the community and adds to it. I love to see the transformation on this site. From an armory to a new community is a beautiful thing. It is literally swords into plowshares, and it's not often that you get to do that in your review work. So I'm proud to support this project as presented. I'm really impressed with how it's all gone, and I hope we can move it forward. Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, come on up.
Hi, again, my name is Michelle Wheeler, and I live on Diane Street, so I live across the street from the proposed property. In all of my dealings or coming to the meetings and talking to people, I really haven't heard anybody who is in disagreement about the need for housing, the need for larger housing, at least the 3-bedroom units. From everything that I heard, it was the massive scale of what was going in. And so I just wanted to read from the original RFP what the city of Winooski requested in the RFP. The development concept is for a medium-sized project, likely featuring townhomes or a cottage court design. The final design will be adapted based on community input. It says a few more things, then it goes down to Winooski's current housing priorities, expanding home ownership. That is the first thing they talk about. Offering affordable housing options both for rent and purchase. These goals are non-negotiable. Further down, The Winooski City Council has recommended a 50-50 split between rentals and ownership units, balancing the need to make home ownership more accessible while also addressing the city's rental housing demands. This is really reasonable RFP. I think most people embraced this idea. I'm going to continue reading. Given Winooski's high percentage of renters, expanding home ownership opportunities is a priority. This model encourages home ownership for lower income residents and helps build wealth and equity for many residents who would otherwise be unable to buy a home. The Butternut Grove condominiums developed by Champlain Housing Trust are an example of this model. This is what the city put out. This is what they requested. It is not what is happening here at all. When many of the people came to speak, both for and against it, the people who spoke against it never spoke against the need for the project. Many people spoke against the amount of housing that was going in, the height of the buildings, the 3 stories not fitting the massing of the already development pattern of the neighborhood in terms of the size. Many people talked about if they were fourplexes. Most everybody, I don't think I heard one person having any, everybody loved the townhomes in there. When the project went to the DRB and was denied, part of the denial was for, and I had that somewhere here, talking about the scope and scale of the project. And then it went back to Champlain Housing Trust, and they did many wonderful improvements, like turning the buildings to face all the road, having the parking in the rear. There were many wonderful things that happened. But the thing that also happened was that they took out the 6 townhouses completely. So the project went forward not with a 50-50 split, but with a 6-24 split. So it wasn't even equal to begin with. And then it was completely gutted. Completely. And when I came to a city council meeting, it was spoken on record that it was the DRB that requested that the townhomes come out. And I'm kind of, for one, I'm going to ask for a clarification about that, because I don't recall that the DRB had any issues with the townhomes at all. But that's what's on record at the city council meeting that I attended. So the issue that I heard, and while Champlain Housing Trust listened about the way the buildings faced and things like that, that was all pretty minimal in comparison to the height of the buildings, the 3 stories. Had this development been brought down to fourplexes or whatever to be 2 stories high, I don't think anything would have, I mean, I don't know, but I just don't think many people would have opposed this at all if it was 16 units. There was community input, and it was that huge piece of input really was not addressed at all. From conversations that I had with CHT and some city employees, the need to keep this at 24 rental units is based on the CHT budget of what will make it profitable and work for them. I was told by one of the CHT employees that they had to have at least 20 units in order for them to house a staff person there. I was told by a Winooski City employee that 24 units is the number in order to get a certain type of federal funding match. I don't know how to express this, but it's just like it's a little bit backwards here. It's like you should be getting your community input and assessment and building this in a way that meets the needs of the community and also for the people who are needing this housing as well. So please do keep the 3 and 4 bedroom units, but please make them at a scale that's going to be, habitable with this entire community. In addition to that, talking about the 3 stories, the city engineer's letter talks about, and I read from their letter, lastly, I recommend that CHT engage a geotechnical engineering consultant for the project as soon as possible. The proposed 3-story buildings are assumed to be constructed with shallow foundations and a slab-on-grade ground-level floor. Given the size of the buildings, the possible presence of fill at the anticipated bearing stratum, the potential presence of clays, and the locations of the proposed buildings being partly or entirely out of the footprint of the former armory site, a geotechnical investigation is warranted at this stage, and a full geotechnical engineering report will be required for the proposed redevelopment at a later stage of local permitting. Mainly, the way that I read this, and I'm not a geotechnical engineer, the height of those buildings may be too big for the slab construction that they are proposing here. And that's from your city engineer here. That's not me talking, that's just me reading city documents. So all in all, the 3 stories is what I would respectfully ask be looked at, that this project be looked at to have maybe 16 units or go back to what was originally supposed to be a cottage concept design. There was only one RFP that was answered, and it was CHT, and they just ran with it. There was no requests for any other developers to submit their ideas, as if nobody else was going to. I think maybe if a little more time was given, that maybe other ideas would have come forward. Also, I just want to note, well, we need this. There's absolutely no guarantee that any of this is going to our Winooski families that are already here. And there's no way to make a provision for that to happen. And I wish that it could. I really wish that that could happen, but you know, it's illegal to require that anybody renting here already live in this town. So, you know, that's just a sad reality of it, is that we may not even be helping all the people that we need to help. We do need to help. I just think that we can help with one medium project at a time, as opposed to huge project that may or may not work. And definitely the concerns of the citizens were not completely listened to. The meeting, the city council meeting, where I was told that the DRB was the entity that nixed the townhomes. Also, that's when it came to light that this whole permitting went into process in a closed meeting. That may have had CHT in it. I don't know. I wasn't at that meeting. But that was not very transparent. So I think my concerns are like just a little bit on a bigger scale, not so much with this one particular project, but there's many other projects coming up. You know, you've got the Gabe's Way, you've got, I don't know, there's another potential project that's gonna happen on Whitney Street if that 3-part parcel sells. Is how the city council and the city planning and the development review boards are notifying all the neighbors in the area. I was never notified of this, and I live directly across the street from it. So it seems like that I would be impacted by that. How they are notified, how they are warned. The 15-day warning period is laughable for, you know, developing any comment period from the public. And also the content of the actual meetings, or what happened. What happened behind the closed doors that this went from being denied to being shifted and approved without the townhouse ownership? When they came out of executive session, this was approved now for just the 24 rental units. What happened in there? Do we not deserve to know that? That's what I have an issue with. What's that?
We're not the city council.
I know, but this is where I'm bringing this piece up. This all has to do with La Fountain.
That's
and
great.
That is how the process went. So It was like going into a tunnel and coming out the other side, and nobody knew what happened inside that tunnel. And that's just not very transparent for the taxpayers. And that piece is what's more concerning to me than this particular project. This particular project isn't concerning to me in that way, in the way of building needed housing at all. Trust me, it's not. I would like to see some housing go in there. I don't want to look at this giant, empty, ugly lot. I would love to see some lovely housing go in there for people. But the process by which this has happened has not been actually very forthcoming or transparent at all. And that actually alarms me because, as I stated at the last city council meeting, not all developers are like CHT and will keep this housing affordable for people. And some things are being bought by developers and being sold. Permits are going through very quickly without very good oversight, and then they're having to backtrack. So when you have to backtrack and then make the units affordable when they're already on the market as 400,000 and more, that's a problem. There's a lot of things, if this was done more thoughtfully, with better transparency and more oversight from different places, then these mistakes wouldn't be happening. The community would be involved and informed and wouldn't be having reactions to it. So that's, I guess that's my opinion on that. Typology is a whole other topic that doesn't belong in this particular discussion. Thank you.
Thank you for your feedback.
Thank you. Okay, any other comments, public comments for 50 Park Street? Okay, I think we'll invite the applicant to come back up. Any further questions from the board for the applicant?
I guess I had one more question. The stormwater came up as a public comment, and just in your response, it was a little ambiguous. It kind of like, it seems like there's a couple options to solve it, and you'll have to wait to get more clarification from the city. Can you speak a little bit more to that?
Yeah, so, I mean, stormwater development with the state, there's many different tools, many different best management practices we can use. Right now, we are proposing an infiltration basin because it's what the state likes to see. So the water comes, infiltrates into the ground, and that's how we're managing it right now. For the state stormwater permit, we only have to meet water quality because this water goes directly to the Winooski, so you don't have to meet some of the bigger, larger storm events. There could be an opportunity to, if infiltration was not desired, to do something called a gravel wetland, which would have an impermeable barrier on the bottom of it and would hold the water temporarily and then slowly let it out. I don't know if that comes with reaching out to the state and sort of identifying where the project is and the issues that have come up and what the town has asked us to do and see if they would allow that. But basically on a project that has really good sandy soils and infiltrative soils, they want to see infiltrative practices. It's called meeting groundwater recharge. And so that's what we're attempting to do by infiltrating all of the water quality storm on site. But there could be an opportunity with working with the state that we could look at something that was more of a containment on site with a smaller infiltration practice kind of in the front of the buildings. That we are still proposing that. There is some gravel infiltration areas in front of the buildings as well. So it's sort of, if we were able to meet groundwater recharge with just those areas, there could be an opportunity to do more containment instead of actually infiltration.
And so just to, in terms of process, our thought is to have preliminary plan approval, then begin our work on detailing that feature in our work with stormwater permitting and have that more detailed when we come back for final plan review.
Yeah, so just to say it again, you don't have a solution now, but there are solutions available, and what that looks like will be determined a little bit more detail. Is that safe to say?
Well, no, our solution now is what we're showing,
Okay.
which is a small infiltration basin. We've actually filled it with stone, so it doesn't have as much sort of space for water to capture. The water is captured in the voids of the stone and slowly infiltrates into the ground. It's the best management practice for this type of development, and so that's what we are proposing. But our work with the DPW, that is, they do have a concern about infiltration, and so we're having conversations, and I'm happy we'll continue to have those conversations, and we'll push it as far as we can. But we still have to meet the state regulation, and right now the regulation wants to see groundwater or infiltration on site.
All right, thank you.
I have a question kind of tied to that, but also not. Just wondering if you had time to look at the city engineer, Brian Lambert's, that final paragraph talking about his concerns, the geotechnical assessment being asked for, and then, how that could also tie or relate to the groundwater infiltration on site.
So the initial steps as we get into documentation will include a geotechnical analysis of the ground, so soil borings and a geotechnical engineer reviewing the capacities of those soils. We anticipate that a 3-story building can be done on this property. At worst case, it would be modifying the footings of the foundations to accommodate whatever soil-bearing capacity there might be. So we have to do some further analysis. It requires drill rigs and a lot of other, we'll do that kind of after we have permits in hand. So.
Any comments, questions? Got a couple things just from some of the comments that were made. I wonder if you can address the comment, the question about improvements outside the envelope and the, what you've presented versus what you're intending to pay for.
Sure. Yeah, we've been in a lot of conversations through the different reviews, and we're intending to build the full sidewalk, the full length of Park Street at our cost, the curb on the west side of Park Street at our cost, and I believe there are 2 new hydrants proposed as well. And then we've been working with DPW on the needs for, they've requested a looped water line between the water line on what's the name of the street at the top? Bruce Street, thank you. Bruce and the Fountain water lines, and so we're working with them on that as well, that we plan to look for.
When you say working with them, you're working with them to incorporate that into your project?
To specify, they're not sure yet what specs they want to see for that water line,
Yeah.
so yeah, working with them on just that detailing.
Okay. And then I guess a few comments. I heard a few comments tonight on the home ownership piece of the project. I'm wondering if you can just walk us through the evolution that got to eliminating the townhouses and the home ownership piece.
Sure. Yeah, we were excited to do both and proposed what we felt could fit on the site. We do have really a minimum size for a functional rental community of 24 homes. And then we were able to fit 6 duplexes on the site for home ownership. When we have been through this process, and it seemed that really people wanted to see fewer or less density, I guess I'd say, fewer buildings, fewer total homes, we lost the home ownership units. And we're not thrilled to do that. We had to make some hard decisions, but we had the support of council because it did change their intent from the RFP, and so there was a discussion there. And they understood that really, if we're going to have a smaller number of homes on the site, we feel CHT has quite a number of affordable for-sale homes in Winooski. I think it was mentioned by one of the public commenters, we recently developed 20 homes at Butternut Grove and 3 recently on Hall Street in partnership with Habitat for Humanity. And it's really, in our opinion, if we're not able to do both by doing 30 units, then it's time to really step up to the rental need. Home ownership opportunities for development will continue. You can do them kind of 2, 3, 4 at a time. But sites large enough for a rental community like this, that's 1.5 acres, are unusual.
Any questions? Good?
None for me.
Okay, thank you. With that, I think we will close the public hearing for 50 Park Street. And David, do you want to come back up?
Sick of it.
Not my role.
Give everyone a moment just to leave who wants to. Okay, the next item on the agenda is 5 through 17 Gabe's Way. Is the applicant here and ready to present? Please come up.
Do I just, Robbie, do you mind just closing the door?
Go ahead.
Yes, I am Greg Dixon from Krebs & Lansing Consulting Engineer. I'm here representing the project at 5 to 17 Gabe's Way. This project worked with city staff to get administratively approved, but then sort of construction costs as well as some changes to the project plans. We've been asked to come in here and go through sketch plan and preliminary plan for this project. It is effectively very similar to what we already have approved. The one item that we are looking to take off is the priority housing aspect of the design. So sort of the project as is approved needs to have, I think 50% of the housing needs to be a certain percentage of low income. And so we are looking to remove that because we do not need the 75% coverage for this project. And so that's what we're here to do, is to approve the project without that stipulation. All the bedrooms will still be all the units will still be 3 bedrooms. And so we are asking for the 65% coverage on the site. And I believe we're at about 61% on site. We are asking for a waiver for the decks on the site to be within the 10-foot setback. And so we were wondering what the board thought of that and to move that forward. Gabe's Way was created, or at least the name was solidified last year. And so that's the little segment that is actually on the abutting property, which is also owned by the developer. I think that's about it, but I would be happy to answer any questions. We're here for sketch to sort of pick the brain of the board and get any additional information to move forward to preliminary.
As I understand, the a lot of complaints surrounding the buildings just up the street have to do with Oh, sorry. Yeah, as I understand it, a lot of the complaints related to the property up the street are aesthetic, at least as far as the Buell UDR is concerned. There's nothing in there to address that, but I'm curious what precludes you from adding windows on the street-facing side of the building?
I don't think anything precludes us from adding windows on the street facing. We'd be happy to look back at that with the architect and address that comment.
Okay.
Can you talk a little bit, Greg, about the access and how these two lots relate to each other?
So they're both owned by the same developer. I don't know how they were created. I was not part of that process. But Gabe's Way will become, so it's a private drive or a private road, and they will access turning into the garage spaces right off of Gabe's Way. And then they will access Franklin from Gabe's Way.
So will there be an easement for this property onto the other one? Or off the other one onto this property? Is that required? I know it's the same owner now, but it's possible that could change, right?
Yeah, and if it ever does change hands, it would require an easement and or that roadway becoming like a public right of way.
You spoke about reasons for the change being construction costs, one, and some changes. So the changes that's proposed are, what are the changes that are proposed and how does that?
Yeah.
Or is it mainly just changing from the priority housing?
I mean, it's mainly changing from the priority housing. We did do some updates from some comments and conversations with DPW about water line size, as well as sewer size and direct connections, which we've addressed on this change from the last submission. But effectively, it's the same project.
And so the requirement to resubmit is because of the change no longer being priority housing?
Yes. So for the administrative approval allowance, it specifically only allows for triplexes and quadplexes that have 50% of its total units for sale, affordable at 100% AMI, and with three bedrooms respectively. So without the affordability component, we just treat it like any other triplex or quadplex, which would require at least site plan review in front of you before I can approve it. In the applicant's case, they're looking to have the priority housing incentive that's allowed for three or more bedrooms per unit. Under that incentive, planning and developments in which half of the total units have 3 or more bedrooms can get that increase in lot coverage to 65%.
But that doesn't say anything about the 10-foot setback requirement, right?
So that
the lot coverage requirement is independent of the setback.
That's correct. So the 10-foot setback requirement is established for all planning and developments. They have to have a 10-foot setback on the periphery of the planning and development.
And an attached deck would be typically prohibited in that setback, but a patio at grade would not be, or would be included in setback restrictions?
An attached deck is considered to be an extension of the primary structure. I would treat patios the same way, just because it is pavement and it could become a porch or a gazebo or some type of structure on top. So to prevent any sort of creep, I would try to push the applicant towards not having the patio in the setback.
So is there any rationale, just thought you'd ask, just a request, or is there, what's the?
Well, our rationale was we had it on the original plans, and the project team feels that having decks makes the for sale, makes that a little bit easier, like, it makes it more appealing for a potential buyer. If the decks cannot happen, it's a high probability that this might become more of a rental property and not be the for sale side of things. But that's that's why we were asking for the decks to remain.
So they were in the original approved plan?
Yes.
So in the, under administrative approval and for site plan review, the setbacks on the side and the front are 5 feet, and the rear setback is 10 feet. For plain unit developments, you have to maintain the rear setback around the periphery. So the setback on the sides, as presented, are 10 feet.
It was not a planned unit development
Yes.
originally.
Yep.
So the decks were outside of the 5-foot side yard setback, but now they're within the 10-foot PUD setback.
Why is it changed to a planned unit development?
So the applicant is looking for it to develop this as a planned development instead of what they were previously approved as, in order to get the allowance for 65% lot coverage, but not have to meet the requirement for the affordable housing component.
Yeah, so I would just echo, I think it was Felipe's comment about the streetscape. I think you're right, there's no specific requirements, but somewhere in our package, it talks about maintaining the consistent building line and streetscape. So the building lines is maintained, but I think if you look at the streetscape, you see fronts of houses. So it's a little jarring to see the gable end of this with nothing on it. I would strongly encourage the architect to take a look at that.
So adding to that, building orientation is within your purview. That's in the PUD standards. It's something that's outside my purview right now.
Okay. Anyway, I'll keep going, but jump in if anybody has any questions.
Keep going.
I would like to see the neighboring buildings on this plan.
Like their orientation?
But yeah, just their location. We see them on this photo. Maybe they're outside of the plan. I can't. That would help give a better idea of the relation to the neighboring properties.
Yeah, I think you'd see them just barely on each of the pages.
And sorry, I'm having a hard time finding it. Where on Franklin Street would this be closest? These buildings don't have addresses.
So this is 8 Franklin Street.
8, okay, thank you.
Or 8X. 8X Franklin Street.
Because there is also an 8 Franklin Street.
The building to the south is 8 Franklin Street. This is 8X Franklin Street.
And the addresses are proposed to change to the new private drive?
Correct.
No questions?
I mean, just kind of building on your comment, is it worth it to mention, like typically we like to see the orientation so that front door faces the street, is the main access way. Yeah.
You mean, we would like to see that, yeah.
That's what you were going for.
That is what I was
Yeah.
suggesting.
Which is hard, because we're in this kind of this liminal space where we don't have the typology solidified yet, right? So.
But it sounds like based on the PUD regulations,
Yeah.
we have the right to, what's the phrasing? The orientation and the streetscape is mentioned as well.
I can ask the architect if I do think windows is something that could easily be done. Having a first floor door, it would just be to that corner unit. But there could be a door equally on the back side of this thing, so the 2 outside units could have doors on the front, which would be facing, which might have that connection to Franklin Street, if it was the desire, but I would need to review that with the architect.
When we're talking about orientation, is it just a Franklin Street, or can you make the argument that because it's going on a private drive, Gabe's way, that the orientation then would be met, because it would be facing this private road.
I think we should evaluate it with respect to existing structures,
Yeah.
so to Franklin Street.
Agreed. Yeah. But I just wanted, for a point of clarity.
Yeah, it's a bit open-ended on the orientation piece. Yeah, I think the standard, I don't have it up right in front of me, but it's under the PUD standards that you're looking at the built form of the street and making recommendations on building orientation based off of the built environment.
That's already there,
Yes.
So I don't think we could rotate the building 90 degrees because it wouldn't fit on the property. Also, the DRB doesn't, or not the DRB, the DPW doesn't like that many connections. So that's why we oriented it this way. One, it fits on the property, and two, it uses the single connection to Franklin Street instead of having 4 separate driveways. But also the building just would not fit.
And just to be clear, just to make sure I understood you correctly, you were saying if we don't grant the exception for the 10-foot setback for the decks, that the property owner will reconsider having these for sale versus for rent. That's what you said?
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
I think it more comes down to saleability at that point. So if without the decks, they still generate for sale, then I think they would consider it. But if they have trouble selling them, then they would look at a rental. And with this PUD, that aspect is also taken out. They don't have to be for sale.
Has a shallower deck been discussed? Like typical of Montreal or European cities?
The building is almost directly on the 10-foot setback, so I don't think you could even have, you might be able to get a 1-foot porch or deck or something like that. And as we've discussed in this meeting, that it's not really a deck at that point. I did discuss with the architect if there was a way to inset the deck in the upper stories, and so the bottom story would still be the same shape with the garage and the utilities, and then the upper stories, you'd have an inset deck into the building. That comes with a list of challenges too, for water tightness and other aspects, and the architect didn't feel like it made sense. But that would be something that would be helpful for the board when you come through with your decision if that's could be allowable or not.
And they're open, right? There's no roof on those. They have partitions between them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll take public comment for a sketch review.
I think so. Okay, great. It's on the agenda.
A public comment on this?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant?
No.
Thank you, Greg.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, anybody who would like to speak, make public comment on this item, please come up to the microphone, introduce yourself, and
People don't like it.
let us know.
My name's Doug Johnson. I live on Pleasant Street off of right up near Bellevue. I pass the proposed building and 12 Franklin Street several times every day. I think it's, and I'm on the local resources advisory for the present time. I don't know whether I really have any right to speak, but I'm gonna say that I think a building that's gonna face, it's gonna be, I think, a 3-unit building, 4-unit building. On a narrow lot, with a gable end to the road, with a design that really is intended to be 4 townhouses in a row facing the street. I would say, when you're talking about 3 stories. And I think that's inappropriate for this kind of neighborhood, unless you do things to modify the gable end that will fit it better into the neighborhood. But the height of the building is going to absolutely compress that glorious little 1.5-story cottage that sits in between these two structures. And I think that it could be, modifications could be made. I know compatibility with the neighborhood is not a factor which is supposed to condition acceptance or rejection, but I think conditions can be stated that ask for windows and a door and a porch on the gable end, at least, that puts it into the style of the larger array of buildings on the street. You can't ask the developer of the previous building to do that retroactively, but you can avoid compounding the problem that faces people on the street. I think the people that are going to rent those buildings are going to find, both in the new building being proposed and in the existing building, going to find parking in the driveways or in the garages or the lanes to be a completely disastrous and difficult process, and most of the time they're going to be parking on the street. And the street is a hazard to pedestrians because anybody who's walking back and forth to the schools or down to the center of town from the neighborhood areas, farther up Franklin Street and adjacent streets, is going to have to continue to walk in the street because there's no proposal or plan for a sidewalk. So I think it compounds a large number of different problems that aren't really being addressed in the plan that's being put forward to the DRB. So I would urge you to try to incorporate conditions or strong suggestions into whatever you decide to do with the building. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kate Coffey, I don't even really know what to say about if we can't have our decks or porches, then we'll just give it to the renters. I find that, I don't, yeah, that's just, that's a lot, almost at 8 o'clock at night. I do want to bring up the typologies that are coming. We're going to talk about them next Thursday. I'm still thinking about the decks. I want to urge this board to consider tabling this until the typologies are available for reference and application to projects like this, because that is the reason why 12 Franklin is the reason why those are needed. I also want to ask about lot coverage and try to understand the percentage on the lot where the homes are and the percentage on the little wing portion of the lot that comes down to Franklin Street, and understand and have you guys understand how that makes sense for those to be are they separate numbers? I mean, I don't know, but it seems like if we go back to the argument that the, the, um, the owners are not the same at some point. Wouldn't the lot coverage on the part where the building is, be too much at that, or like, it makes no sense, like, how
Sorry,
can
sorry,
you,
what's your
how
question?
can you have the driveway for these, the access on some other property? It's a different property.
Is it true the property owners be given a right of way?
I mean, he owns both properties, so.
Yeah.
He does today.
I mean, it's something I think we could discuss
Put
as
a
a
condition on it,
condition,
yeah.
you know, but.
I just urge you guys to look at the lot coverage and how that was calculated with regard to the entire, the two properties, because you can't get from one to the other. You can't just discount or lower your lot coverage when your driveway is over on someone else's property. No one?
So I think we'll write down these questions and we'll bring the applicant back up and delve into them.
Thank you, and will this be available, will this recording be available?
I believe all of them are available on the
Yeah.
city website.
Yeah. How about
Yeah.
the planning commission
It's actually
one
live.
on March 26th?
Different subject. Thank you.
Encourage everybody to go to the planning commission. Let them know what you think.
They love
Yes, sir.
getting feedback.
Good evening. My name is Jared Miller. I live at 10 Franklin Street with my wife Sarah. So nobody's been more affected, I think it's safe to say, about what's going on at 12 Franklin Street than us. We moved to Franklin Street, 10 Franklin Street in 2011. So we've seen some change, you know, we've been, long time Winooski residents, we love it here. I own a general contracting business too, so since 2008, so I certainly pro-building. I employ 4 people. They're all paid above the average for what they should be paid for their positions, and there's only one employee out of all my employees that would make 100% AMI. Would even qualify, you know, I guess they would all qualify. There's only one person that would not qualify. And there's obviously, you know, housing crisis here. It's undeniable. And like I said, I'm pro-building. And in general, my wife and I were not automatically opposed to 12 Franklin. But, you know, we came to find out about it only a few days before the appeal process closed because our neighbor approached us about it to tell us. Nobody reached out to us to tell us. And the information that she was supplied with was only half of the zoning, the application. There was a site map that was included, and just kind of like the overhead, like kind of rendering, I guess. Nothing actually showed the scale of the building, and the information on the site map regarding the lot coverage was incorrect. So it said it was only 46%. And then also on the site map, when you look at it, it says there's a 10-foot setback, and then it also shows a driveway. So I guess like I noticed it, no one else noticed it, but we put our faith in the zoning board and the city and Robbie to get it right. You know, honestly, it's such a simple thing, you know, it's so fundamental to zoning that we never really thought that there would be a driveway against our house. I don't know if any of you have gone over and looked at it, but there's literally a driveway against our house now. If you look at the roof, it pitches right onto our house. So, you know, there's gonna be snow, ice, water runoff. And that's the obvious stuff, but I mean, even the plans aren't correct because the driveway goes all the way to the fence at the end. So we literally are just like flanked by this driveway on the side of our house now. I mean, it's so extreme, like I don't even know if cars can get in and out of the garages. I kind of doubt it, but I think it's likely at some point someone's gonna hit our house. So that's obviously been pretty upsetting to say the least. When we reached out to Robbie, we were told that he's not accountable for building orientation. He said, you guys are, but I guess I'm wondering if you're cut out of the equation, then who do we go to about it, you know? And if we only get half the information, then how can we even appeal it, you know? So all these things were very alarming, and like I said, I'm a general contractor by trade, so like this is my world. This is where I operate, you know? And I certainly know that if I made mistakes like this, I would be held accountable as an applicant. So switching to 12 Franklin, you know, we've lost our setback, or switching to 8 Franklin, we've lost our setback on 12 Franklin, so we don't have that. And now we're told that we're not gonna have a setback down the hill either. And that happens to include cutting down trees that we planted. So also, when we were at the meeting last week, we were told that the developer, I guess, forgot that the properties had to be 100% AMI properties. So like, I don't know where that's at, but I mean, I'm even confused by the concept of 100% AMI property. I mean, if you go on the Vermont Housing Authority website, they talk about 80%, 50%, and 30%. So, I mean, I don't really understand how that's really like affordable housing. That's not just affordable housing because you call it that. So, yeah, we're pretty concerned. I mean, I put my faith, you know, I mean, my wife asked me, like, should we be alarmed? You know, we reached out to an attorney, and none of the other neighbors, I think, understood the scale of the building at 12. And I mean, if they had, I mean, I think it would have been different because I mean, we have people walking by, like gawking, taking pictures, like pretty much daily. I mean, that building really has no business being on our street. And so I think now everybody's alarmed because we don't feel we can trust the city to make the best decisions with us in mind. You know, it's a rush to say yes. I mean, that's the stated slogan, you know, so it's concerning, you know, it's really concerning. And the idea that we would cut the review board out of the process makes no sense to me. But I'm glad we're here looking at it. There shouldn't be less guardrails for properties like this, there should be more. And again, like I'm pro-building, I'm not saying we shouldn't be building anything there, but just throwing something out for the sake of it with no consideration for the neighborhood just doesn't make sense to me, you know? And I mean, even if we look at a picture, we're not guaranteed that's actually what's going in, because like that's been the case next door. So, you know, we're really concerned, not necessarily looking for answers. You know, like we've talked to attorneys, we're gonna do what we're gonna do about 12 Franklin, but I really hope that we just slow down and take a good look at 8 Franklin. You know, I don't understand why, like it seems like this is a private street, but it's not a private street because it takes your setback. Like no one's really been able to explain that to me. And the building orientation is confusing to me. It's just not a lot of transparency, basically. And I think there needs to be that. You know, if you guys decide to put in a building and it's transparent, you know, what the reasons are, what the process is, like fine. But it doesn't feel like that right now. So, yeah, that's it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Who's next?
Well, I don't think I have anything much more eloquent to say than the homeowner who lives next door to this project. However, a couple of things. The similar concerns about this Gabe's Way, or 8 Park Street or whatever, or Franklin, is that it's dwarfing the houses in the neighborhood. And that comes because it is a 3-story structure. That seem to be harping on this 3-story structure bit tonight. The reason this is a 3-story structure is because they have determined that they need to put ground level covered parking underneath the structures completely, which makes the living level 2nd and 3rd floor. It's been talked about how it's difficult to get into these underground parking space, or not underground, but 1st level parking spaces, and how it will be even more so when we have snow and ice and weather. So without wanting to repeat this same mistake on the other side of 10 Franklin, I'm asking, why does this particular structure have to be 3 stories? Why does it have to have this 1st ground parking? What if this was just a normal 2-story structure that could have street-facing things with a door and some windows, and you put the parking in the back? Oh, I know, maybe because you'd have to reduce it from 4 units to 3 units in order to put, I don't know, 3 or 4 parking spaces. I don't know. To me, that's then a problem of how much money this project is going to make for the developer, as opposed to how it's going to impact a neighborhood forever. And I think clearly the best thing that's happening with this project is that it isn't bypassing the DRB, that you're actually getting to see and hear and understand what this particular project is doing, unlike 12 Franklin Street. So think about it. The roof gable peak on this is 39 feet tall. That's even bigger than what they're proposing at Park Street. It's 39 feet. That's pretty tall, and it doesn't have to be that way. It's that way because of this parking that has to go underneath. Now, this parking, they're talking about decks, and I'm going to get a little bit back to the decks later. By my calculations, looking at the site plan really quickly, because I didn't get it before the meeting, it's 42 feet deep. So I don't know how, my car isn't 42 feet long, unless you're parking an RV under there. I think you could probably put a patio underneath that underhang for the first whatever. I don't know. Just seems to me, if you had to have it. But I don't believe that this needs to have that kind of parking. I believe the parking could go in back of this building, and this building could be smaller than 39 feet tall. I'm not even going to talk about the change from priority housing, because that's, again, this is just all about profit at this point. What I don't like hearing from this particular developer by way of the architect, but also I got sort of the same vibe from this particular architectural firm about both the project on the Armory project and this project. And that is, if we don't get what we want, we're going to remove the home ownership part. And that sounds like a threat to me. If we don't get our decks, we're just not going to be able to sell this. And so we need a waiver on these setbacks of these decks, which are encroaching on our neighbor's property. Oh, which, by the way, our other property is already encroaching on them. But if we don't get these decks, we can't offer these for sale. We're going to have to offer them for rent. And that's the same thing that happened at the Armory. They didn't get what they wanted, and they took away the home ownership piece because they weren't willing to work with the community to modify their design to fit with the scale and the scope for the neighborhood and listen to the community feedback. My other concern about this is, I believe, and I'm not 100% sure because I didn't get all my research done, but I believe that this was the same developer that might have done Molly's Way. And Molly's Way is on the other side of Niquette Court. And I believe the same developer owns the house at the end of Niquette Court. And all of that property adjoins in the back, if you look at a map. So it seems to me that if they're putting in a private road, calling it Gabe's Way, that there probably will be a push for the future to go all the way through. And I think I would like to know what the bigger development plan is, because I think by doing this piecemeal, you're not really getting a picture of what's happening there. And that's a nice piece of property. That could be a piece of property that could be developed into some nice affordable housing and or combination of rental units and home ownership, because it looks like a big enough parcel there. But I think if it's all going to be done in piecemeal little sections, and it's all going to be done with the maximum profit in mind, everything is being pushed through at such a rush rate that there's nothing being done thoughtfully with the bigger picture. And that's unfortunately what I see in various neighborhoods in Winooski. Something gets approved, it goes in, it's huge, then it's a problem. So at a minimum, all the neighbors involved need to be warned of these things. Was every house on Franklin Street warned? Was every house on Niquette warned? The backyards of Niquette are affected by this. Are the houses that are sold on Molly's Way warned if it's all going to be? I mean, these people are all affected by this, and yet nobody knew. Why is that? Part of the issue is that, and we've talked about this a lot at City Council, is that when we see the agendas, it just says DRB meeting, and then you have to click on that, and then you have to click on the agenda, and then you have to click below that, and there's a number of clicks that have to happen. Whereas if it was stated, as happened this time, and thank you, I think Robbie put it in and somebody else put it in, into the Front Porch Forum, that at the meeting, this will be discussed. And I think once that happens, then people are willing to understand and click further and do the research that they need to do. But there hasn't been a lot of transparency. There hasn't been a lot of effort on the part of the powers that be to notify all the affected people. It's not just the house next door. It's literally all the houses on that street, all the houses that abut in the back. So I would respectfully ask that this project not be rushed ahead, that some thought is given to what the bigger picture is on this as regards to connecting the parcels of land. If there are other applications in the process, we wouldn't know about it because we don't get to know about it at this point, so we wouldn't know about that. And I would think about really listening and reading what people have said on Front Porch Forum and understanding what the community has said about the building at 12 Franklin and how it does not fit or work or feel friendly or either pedestrian friendly or family friendly or community friendly, because it just doesn't fit. And perhaps the scale of this building needs to be taken down in height from 39 feet to something that's a little more manageable, like a 2-story with a gable attic if need be, and or facing the street with doors, and put your porch on the street, put your windows there. It just doesn't fit. The other one didn't fit. It caused a lot of distress in the community, and this it just doesn't have to be repeated again. We have a chance to make this side correct and to hold the developer accountable for keeping our neighborhoods inviting. Thank you.
Thank you. And before the next person comes up, I'll just make a public service announcement that if you have concerns about the process or the regulations as far as height or which projects are administratively approved, I highly suggest you take your concerns to the Planning Commission, because we're a little bit downstream. We're interpreting the rules that they put into place. So that's not a dig at anybody. That's just my read of the situation, and I highly suggest you make your views known to the Planning Commission. Who is next? Please.
Hi, everyone. My name is Abby Blything. I'm from 40 Russell. I sit on the Planning Commission, though I'm not speaking on behalf of the Planning Commission, but I will say that this 12 Franklin has been a topic in the Planning Commission ever since it was built. It's not woven into the fabric of the community. It's kind of feels like a blow from a developer who could care less. And this 8X is the same exact thing, but bigger. So what we've been trying to do in the Planning Commission is try to figure out what design standards we need now that we have these in the gateway, but we do not have them in the residential area, because we were not conceiving such intense development in the residential areas. We need these, we have these priority housing incentives because we need more family size affordable home ownership. And so we're gonna see more intense development in the neighborhood. So we're kind of frantically trying to write code to deal with facing the front of the street and having your door face the front of the street and having a walkway from that door to the street. And not putting your meter box, your utility box on the side of that, basic design that we didn't think we'd have to write into the code. So that project was really jarring, and y'all are on Front Porch Forum, you know how the community feels about it. And again, this is just the same exact building, but much larger, like a larger. So the fact that they no longer are making it affordable is kind of a blessing in disguise, because it actually gives you all the chance to impact the design, because now it is a PUD, and the only way they can build this intense, like this much lot coverage, is to make it into a PUD, but the PUD comes with a 10-foot setback, because it acknowledges the fact that it's going to be more intense development on the plot, so the neighbors need a little more breathing room. What's missing in this conversation, and if you folks brought it up before, is there's this new street that's not what you're looking at, but is very much part of this project and sits on the property line of the neighbors that just got.
On the other side of this
yes.
project.
So, 10 Franklin, who are bearing the burden of 12, now are bearing a burden of a new street on their property line on the other side. So even though we're talking about Gabe's other property, which he's developing, he needs the street to be able to develop this property. And so Gabe Handy owns all of the property behind this, all the way through to LeClaire Street. So an 18-foot road is probably going to go into his other properties as well. So if it was all being developed at once, we could look at it and be like, hey, this needs a sidewalk. We need to think about what this community looks like in the access. But because we're getting it in these pieces, it puts a lot of onus on y'all to figure out what it should look like. But at minimum, I would say it has to face the street, it has to face Franklin Street, it has to have a door and windows facing Franklin Street. It's been done in other places. Hall Street was mentioned tonight. Hall Street did a 3-bedroom, 3-unit building, and it faces the road. It is possible. And I wouldn't, with the deck thing like this, oh, if we can't build a deck, we're not gonna sell it, we're gonna rent it. They don't have to, because they're doing a PUD and not our priority housing pathway, they don't have to. They can rent it. They can tell you they need the deck, and that they'll sell it if the deck's in there, but they can rent it even if you give them a waiver for the deck. So it's not part of that incentive that they're going after. So it could be a rental no matter what. I'm not sure if really deck will make or break whether someone wants to own this property. I think decks and having outdoor space is nice. It doesn't exist on the other one. It'd be great if they could figure out a way for that to exist and not take up their setback. So anyway, we're having, yes, everybody should come to the next Planning Commission meeting. We're having a public hearing on some of the code that we've written to try to address the problems with 12 Franklin, the frontage problems, the lack of, the blank wall, huge blank walls, all the stuff I discussed. So, yes, you probably all know we're working on that, but we're trying to get at this typology thing, and this is coming before the public hearing and the review by the City Council, but it's still very much, I think the community has been very vocal about how they feel about having buildings that feel welcoming to both the people living in it and the people around it.
So how would you interpret the current state of the rules as far as our discretion to require architectural changes to the front of this building?
Because it's a planning development, Revi is the expert here, but my understanding is you have quite a bit of discretion on design.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
My name is Richard Wheeler, I'm from 85 Diane Street. I had a question, it might be for Robbie, but I was wondering about when I cantilever over the footprint of the house, how much is that allowed, or is that part of the footprint? Because it seems like when I look at this picture of the house, to add insult to injury, they cantilevered 2 feet out into the driveway just so their house could be 2 feet less or 2 feet greater next to 10 Franklin Street.
Sorry, Mr. Wheeler, are we talking about is there a photo of the present property, or are you talking about?
I'm talking about the existing property.
Oh, the other
on
one, the other one,
12.
okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Is that
I don't know if there's a cantilever thing happening on 8, but it just seemed like, I mean, it's, when they did that,
Yes.
it is like the ultimate, to me. I look at that and I say, oh, it wasn't good enough. You had to add another 100 square feet per unit by cantilevering out 2 feet over the driveway. I mean, this guy is gaming the system. This is the kind of thing that happens when you take off the guardrails. And you're gonna see a whole lot more of this once this whole thing gets underway. When the 15 people move into that house, that's when the fun starts. And when they sell those properties, then what happens? I mean, we haven't even begun to see the consequences of the damage to 10 Franklin Street, those people. And it's all because the developer is gaming the system. They're taking the 65%, which is already outrageous, and pushing it to the limit. And we don't want these kind of developers. I mean, it's like Mr. Potter, you know. This is the stuff of, like, really, are you gonna do that? Are you gonna drop these row houses into these places that are already so dense compared to Burlington or any of the surrounding communities? They don't have the density that we have here. And I'm not saying that they should do this thing there, but it just seems crazy, outrageous, and I don't think it belongs in Winooski. We're very inclusive, and we're all for inclusive zoning. But this kind of hijinks is just beyond the pale. And I think we should just put the kibosh on it now. It's just that kind of stuff. I think we need to look at the density. We need to rethink that 65% footprint thing, because you can do some pretty crazy stuff with that kind of density. And I don't think it's friendly to any neighborhood. It's zone B, A, whatever. It doesn't look right. It's just flies in the face of everything that's reasonable. And that's my bit there. But yeah, I would love to know how much cantilevering does affect the footprint or not in the case of in the case of 12 Franklin.
I think it's all incorporated into the footprint, right? Cantilever counts part of the footprint.
Yeah, so above grade projections from a building, such as roof overhangs, balconies, sills, cornices, or similar architectural features may be permitted to extend up to 30 inches into required setbacks, except that no projections shall extend over a public or private right-of-way unless otherwise specified.
So you can extend 30 feet.
30 inches.
30 inches into the setback, and it's probably intended for eaves of houses typically.
Yep, exactly.
Right, but in this case, it is the structure itself.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's all I had to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello.
Oh.
My name is Terry Zygmunt. I live down on West Street, which is actually the densest part of the city with the most dense zoning, aside from the gateway districts. I'm a former planning commissioner. I was on planning commission right before Revy was hired. Probably right around the time of this administrative approval business. I don't ever recall hearing about it while I was on planning commission or hearing that it had been approved. So it was a little surprising to me when I heard about what was happening on Franklin Street, and quite frankly shocked that something like that could have been approved administratively without having to come in front of this board. if I was living at 10 Franklin Street, I wouldn't be as calm talking about this right now as I am. I understand from reading some emails back and forth on Front Porch Forum and also from neighbors and folks that live in that area. It sounds like there were some mistakes that were made by the zoning administrator when he approved the plans for 12 Franklin. And so I just really want to say to you all, please, to not approve anything right away, to really take a good, close look at all of this and really think about the things that people have said so far tonight. If the developer wasn't asking to not have the affordable housing aspect of this project would be going through as these plans are, without you all having to look at it, without anybody being able to comment on it, except for that little 15-day window, which is kind of a short period of time if you think about it. Most people take a vacation that lasts 2 weeks. Not to mention that we all have lives and jobs and things. And also, when you're thinking about how the other one was administratively approved, the developer is now here in front of us asking to remove the affordability component to this development and turn it into a PUD. The other one, he's claiming that he didn't know there was an affordability component. At least that's what I believe you shared with me, or I read in an email from you, that the developer wasn't aware that there was an affordability component for 12 Franklin, and yet somehow it was approved with the lot coverage. I believe that, am I wrong about this, Ravi?
So, he went through permitting with my predecessor and with me. We've all had some conversations about developing that at 75% lot coverage, but it was permitted at 61, and developing it under that administrative approval allowance. When I reached back out and when the applicant asked about what about the 75% lot coverage, and I said, yes, you could qualify for it, but please check the regulations. Here's a link to the regulations. And it was approved with the condition of the affordability elements. So in my action, I even specify under conditions that before I can close out the permit, the applicant needs to meet the affordability condition for 2 of the 3 units. So right now, the zoning permit is still open for 2 of the 3 units at 12 Franklin Street. We are working on meeting the affordability elements along with a couple other stormwater elements that DPW has identified. So those 2 units that have the affordability restriction on there, they won't be closed until the affordability restriction has been met.
Does that mean they don't get a certificate of occupancy? They can't be rented until then?
Well, sold. So
Sold.
This is for 12 Franklin, completely different context. So for 12 Franklin, yeah. So the first step is with them recording legals. I've been informed that the legals that have been reviewed by the city attorney, that have been vetted, that meet our language, has been recorded. The other element is before any sale or closing that we need to verify the incomes so that it meets that 100% AMI and 30% of cost balance. So until those 2 elements are met, the zoning permit is still open until, and can't be sold until they meet those 2 elements.
Thanks for
So
the dive,
basically
yeah.
what I'm saying is that this developer, the same developer that developed that property, got administrative approval, if I'm understanding correctly, based on the fact that it was having these affordable units in it. Now is saying to everybody, oh, hey, we can't afford to do it as affordable anymore, but could you approve this? So I'm just asking you guys to put the brakes on this a little bit and really take a look at these plans. Make sure that there's no more harmful impacts to the poor people that live at 12 or 10 Franklin, who already, if you all haven't walked up there or driven up there and seen it, it's astounding. what this building looks like next to their house, and there's gonna be 4 more units next to it, and like the person who spoke before me said, they don't even know what the impact is yet, because nobody's living there. There's gonna be how many people living next door to these folks on either side? Please, please, please put the brakes on this, and please really, really study these plans and really understand these plans, because I'm pretty sure that mistakes were made at the other property. Somebody didn't look close enough, and the folks that are living in that little house are now suffering the consequences of that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ravi, can you explain the setback? I don't understand. I've heard it brought up a little bit. I don't quite understand what the issue was.
For
12, but then also as it relates to 8.
So for 12, when I was reviewing the plans, I made the mistake of permitting the driveway within the setback. I didn't know at the time that there was a 5-foot setback when I first looked at the plan. It was one of the first permits that I issued for the city, and I made that mistake. But all the other elements on my review were correct for 12 Franklin. So with building height, with the setback of the building and the location of the building on the property.
So it's just the driveway?
It's just the driveway and the setback.
Is that not, that wouldn't have been allowed, the driveway?
Yeah, there's a 5-foot setback requirement for driveways.
Different than the building setback?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's a 5-foot setback for driveways and a 5-foot setback for buildings, so.
And does that apply in this case, or does it not because it's considered a private drive?
That's my understanding, is that with a private drive like that, it wouldn't apply in this case. The building is set back from the driveway, and that it has 2 front setbacks on the private driveway, roadway, and the public roadway.
Does it say that in the code? Does it explicitly say that?
It's, front yard setbacks, if I read do we have a definition for front yard setbacks?
I guess would it be a separate,
I guess
like a separate development because it's on a differard property? I'm talking about Gabe's Way itself.
Right, the turn-ins from here.
Yeah, why does Gabe's Way not have to have the 5-foot side yard setback?
When I read it and interpreted it, I understood it as a private roadway, so it didn't need to have the setback.
How is a private roadway different from a driveway?
It has 911 numbers, right?
Yeah.
Wait, say that again? What's the difference between a driveway and
I mean, it's got E911 numbers.
Yeah, I don't think I have a strong enough reason for reading it that way at the moment. But that's how I interpret it.
Open for
What do we call it
interpretation,
in the code?
you're saying?
Private?
Yeah.
Okay.
Private
drive.
I guess.
repeat that?
Private roadway.
I don't have a strong enough reason at the moment for interpreting it in that side.
Is there anyone who hasn't spoken yet?
As it just relates to this driveway information, which is new to me. So as I'm understanding it, you needed a 5-foot setback if it was a driveway with a building. And now the developer has worked around that and doesn't need the 5-foot setback because they made it a private road. Why is it that Gabe's Way has to be a private road? They're proposing the exact same thing as they did at 12 Franklin, and it was a driveway. This could be a driveway as well. So I think there is some bigger picture in mind with the properties behind that, and I don't think all the information is out there yet, and I would strongly advise waiting on this, or not necessarily waiting, but just getting more information or getting a bigger picture. And I really, it's very upsetting that, is the orientation of this so that the garages are facing 10? I couldn't tell from the quick.
Yes.
Okay, so 10 Franklin now has a driveway, and I'm sorry, this is a driveway for all intents and purposes, on either side of it with cars and all the houses or all the living space facing right onto 10. Isn't there a way that that building could have been turned in the other direction and put it on the other side so the back of the house would be facing? I mean, why is this all encumbranceing itself on 10 Franklin? That seems really outrageous to me. It wasn't enough of an insult to do it on one side. Now you're going to do it on the other side as well. So I don't know. I guess maybe if people hit you parking into the driveway on the one side of your house, now it's equal. Now the other side of your house will get hit as well. This is really ridiculous. They really are facing it towards 10 Franklin. It just really needs to be looked at long and hard. This is being pushed through at way too quick a rate. And why is there a need to make it a private road? That would be my question.
Thank you. I just want to make sure anybody who hasn't had a chance, anybody who hasn't spoken yet, want to come up? Yes, please.
Hi, my name's Katie. I live at 23 Franklin Street. And I'm I just wanted to say I'm sort of repeating a lot of what's already been said in the room. And I actually came into this meeting not knowing really how anything works, but I was wondering if there were any design guidelines for infill developments in established neighborhoods like Franklin Street, and it seems like the Planning Commission is maybe working on that right now. And so, yeah, I just wanted to share that I really hope that this development at 8 Franklin Street can be put on pause before maybe those guidelines are created, and there could be some collaboration between yourselves. It seems like you do have some discretion with the design of the building and these new guidelines that are created. So just wanted to share that. It's not a beautiful building. I know we need housing, but it's just a little sad to look at. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Anybody else? First time? Mr. Miller, is it? Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. I just want to say what Robbie said is absolutely untrue. The driveway goes to the end of the property right now, so it goes beyond the lot coverage from what was proposed to us. So I can go take a look at it, you know. Also, I mean, I have the emails, like what we were told the lot coverage isn't what the lot coverage actually is. It says there's a setback, it says there's a driveway. I mean, everything about it was confusing. I mean, to say that it's the only thing that's wrong with that property, like an actual violation, is untrue. And I just want to say that. And I don't know what a more compelling reason to honor a setback would be than the fact that you blew right through the setback on the other side of the property. I mean, as I understand it, the property at 12 Franklin and the property that would be built, the properties that would be built at 8 Franklin are the only two properties that Robbie says at least were approved in this way by him going around you guys. And I don't understand what the justification would be as calling it a private driveway. I mean, since we've lived there, like I said, since 2011, and our neighbor, Paul, who lived at the last house on Niket Court, since we moved there, he was trying to get us to sign petitions. He was very vocal about the fact that the property behind his property, that property was owned by the Handys, and they owned the property for 8 Franklin, and they owned the property, I guess, on the other side. You know, from the very time we moved in, he was telling us that the intention was to blow through all those properties with the road. So I just want to echo what has already been said. Just take a look at this carefully, because the intention is clearly to connect all these neighborhoods. You know, so, I mean, Gabe Handy told me as much last summer. So whatever, if it's being done piece by piece, or if it's going to be done, you know, all at once, it's the same thing in the end. And I mean, yeah, frankly, we really got the raw end of the deal with 12 Franklin. And, now we're gonna get a roadway next to our house too. I mean, I don't know, it just doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense for anyone else in the neighborhood too. I mean, honestly, I don't expect anything to come from 12 Franklin, any changes really, but unfortunately, we were the ones that, you know, were suffered the most with this property, and, you know, my intention is to advocate so other people don't have to deal with it, you know, it doesn't happen again, because it was clearly a mistake, you know, and, you know, can't go back, but we don't need to rush 8 Franklin through, certainly, and I think we need to take a good hard look at it, so, thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else like to make some comments? Okay. So what's the process now? This is a sketch plan, so we discuss now, or are we discussing?
Well, I guess you could ask,
Greg,
does anybody have any more?
Oh, we should bring up we'll bring up the applicant again, and we can have questions for Ravi and the applicant based on what we heard.
Can you put all the questions written down?
If I can find them. Okay, so one question I have that's kind of derived from some things we heard was about the decision to push the building to the Franklin Street setback. It seems like you have more space in the back, right? There's 5 feet or 10 feet in the back, but you're right on the 10-foot setback in the front. So I guess my question is it, you know, possible to push that back and then maybe do something in the front that's more in keeping with the Franklin Street? If I'm reading this right.
Yeah, we could look into that.
Okay, I want to dig a little bit into the issue of the 2 lots. So I think the coverage has been calculated separately for each lot. What is this application? This is a PUD application for 8X Franklin.
Yes.
Won't we require a application for a roadway on the other lot? Is that an administrative approval? Like, how does that other lot factor into this application?
So the other lot would factor in as providing the access for the benefit of 8X Franklin. We'd need to see draft legals to show that there is access in perpetuity, and that would be reviewed coinciding this, but the PUD would be limited to 8X Franklin.
Will they need to submit a zoning permit for the road?
Yeah.
A separate permit?
Yeah.
Separate
Shouldn't they
application.
be reviewed in tandem, or not tandem, but in parallel?
Well, I think we can make a condition that that road has to be built and
Has to be
given a
approved.
right of way
Yes.
for this project to go forward.
You do have more parking than is required by the code, so you have 8 parking spaces
The
for 4 units.
the garages are double loaded. You could back in 2 cars. That's why it's so long. But I don't know if people will use them like that. So the garage space is the whole first level.
What I'm saying is you have an allowance to eliminate 2 parking spots, and drop maybe the street-facing unit down a level to reduce, you know, maintain 4 units, 3 bedrooms each.
Well, no, we couldn't do that because right now all 8 parking spaces are under the building.
Say that one more time, there are what?
All 8 parking spaces are in the building.
But what he's proposing is a redesign.
Yeah.
For the street-facing building.
So that if you're on the street, the mass, let's say, closest to you, doesn't reach as high.
So the
right, as it currently does.
So the first unit would just have no parking, is what you're asking?
Or your other 3 parking spaces could be shared in some way, right? Communal parking.
I don't see how that would work, but Because right now
It works in a lot of places.
Yeah, I mean, they would have to share garage access somehow.
So you'd end up straight rentals at that point, probably push it to that direction, I would imagine, instead of homeownership.
I lived for a while at 354 Manhattan Drive in Burlington, and that was a mixture of rentals and owned units. The garages were shared spaces. I don't see a...
But this isn't like, it's not a communal garage in the basement, so they're literally...
Yeah, right now.
Yeah. But you're saying I can bring it to the project.
Oh, so that's why we're here, right?
Yeah. I can bring it to the project team, but
Yep.
I'm wondering about the height of the building at 39 feet.
39.
That's to the peak, I think, and
Yeah.
we measure to the midpoint.
yeah, the
Of the roof.
calculation is on C 1.00 up in the top corner.
Talking which one?
Top right-hand
Oh,
corner.
okay.
Between your eve and your peak.
I guess, I mean, we had a lot of questions about warning, but I don't think I really want to go into it because it's not really relevant to this project, but maybe we'll talk about that at some point. Like, is there different rules for warning these things when it's an administrative approval versus DRB approval and
Yeah, statutorily, yes.
by state law? Okay, I don't want to get into that right now. But I am curious about, there were a couple questions about enforcement. So when these things get approved, who's checking during or after construction that they were built according to the drawings, and what's typically the recourse of a neighbor who finds that something was not built according to the approved plans?
So after construction, I would review it, and then also code enforcement would review it. If a permit's not appealed within 15 days, and if there's a mistake, then that permit is valid, and the mistake doesn't invalidate the zoning.
So that's the permit being approved, but like after construction?
After construction, it's reviewed by me and by code enforcement for the zoning and building permits respectively.
And if you find that something was not built according to the drawing, you withhold the
Until there's a,
zoning?
until all the elements have been fixed.
Can withhold the CO.
The CO.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess like a question for us is,
And I did want to
Go ahead,
clarify
please.
about the porches. I don't know what this property owner is going to do. He just mentioned to me that with the porches, they are more appealing for sale. Without the porches, they still could be appealing for sale. With or without the porches, they could be appealing for sale or for rental. With this process and coming in front of you, that option opens up. And so I wanted to be forthright with the board that they might not sell them, they might rent them.
and I don't think we have any basis to prioritize rental or for sale, and I think it might be against the law.
That's what I was going to ask. Yeah, are you supposed to take that into account at all?
Well, for sale was part of the
original.
Yes.
Right.
It had to be for sale.
I will make the point of personal privilege. It keeps getting brought up at this meeting. I grew up in rental housing as a kid forever. I think it's great. A lot of families can't afford rentals, so it keeps getting brought up as a negative. I don't really see it that way.
Okay, I have just two more. One is, Ravi, is it your opinion that we could require the orientation to take into account Franklin Street? Yeah, because it's a PUD. Okay, and then could you talk about, Greg, the rationale behind the decision to create the private drive? Is that the only option? Why is it a private drive instead of a driveway?
I mean, the private drive does, as everyone's mentioned, provide the possible future to develop the back lot. So it behooves the property owner to do that. I do not know if he has any plans to move forward with anything on the rear lot, but it makes sense to put that in right now because it can help this project, but it also could expand in the future.
And what are the requirements that making it a private drive puts into place? It has to meet the city requirements for a roadway?
I don't think it has to meet the full requirements for a roadway because that would be 20 feet wide and need sidewalks. So it would be a private drive, which has less requirements.
Yeah, so there's certain flexibility for private driveways, but if it doesn't meet spec, then we're never gonna
After.
accept it
Okay.
As a public road.
as a public road.
All right, I think that exhausts my questions. Anybody else on the board have any?
I'm still unclear about the setback of the private drive to the 10
Mhm.
Street.
I think it's something I don't know enough about, so I'd like to dig into it a little bit.
Agreed. Because I don't understand the rationale, but you were saying that it's not really explicitly clear why the setback would apply to a driveway, not to a private way, where in my mind, just apply it universally. But I want to learn more about that.
Seems like there was a lot of community feedback about that happening on the other side of the property, and that it would be repeated again. Seems kind of rugged. And, you know, perhaps the design could be tweaked too, to incorporate the deck into the 44-foot width of the building or depth of the building, and perhaps maybe not have a two-car garage parking. And then maybe open up parking at this additional lot for if people have two cars and they want to park a second car, or, you know, just thinking out loud, but, or like you said, tweak the design to make it more appealing to the neighbors in the front with eliminating that and maybe installing it around back, and develop that piece of property a little bit too, you know, and would you have to meet the setback, the 10-foot setback of this building if you owned the next lot?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could you do some kind of legal thing like you did with the driveway to
I mean, you can do a boundary line.
develop onto, or change the boundary line or something to appease the neighbors and have a little less depth of the building and, I don't know, just make it more appealing, because the south side light is really nice, and that is a desirable thing to have the deck on that side. Just brainstorming, but.
Would switching the roof style reduce the overall height of the building?
100%. Right now, it's a pretty steep roof. They could do stuff like we've talked in the past about making that a dormer and bringing down the height of the building. But as it stands, currently meets regulation, so I don't know if it pushes them to do that. But it could, as part of this sketch process, if that's something that you'd like the project to look into, I would offer that.
Okay.
Okay, any further questions or comments? So the process now for the PUDs are two-part applications or one? Is that based on our decision?
Yeah, so this is sketch.
This is sketch plan.
You can wait preliminary if you'd like, but at this point, you provide comments to the applicant within 15 days.
I guess I was asked to ask if we could waive preliminary and just do a preliminary and final, but that's just a request.
And we can discuss that in our session and issue that with the ruling? Yeah, okay, great. Then I will close this portion of the hearing. Thank you, Greg.
Yep, thank you all.
What's that? No need to close, it wasn't open. Does anybody have the agenda? I lost my agenda.
Faster than we can.
City updates.
City updates.
City updates, Ravi. You're all welcome to stay. This is, the exciting part coming up. We'll deliberate in closed session after there's a few more public items.
Yeah, so I think as some mentioned, Planning Commission is holding a public hearing next week. First half will be on amendments that they're considering. such as building orientation requirements, blank wall limitations, along with a couple of other technical elements. So the public hearing starts at 5:30, and then at 6:30 onwards, it will be a consultant presentation about the Building Typologies project. The consultant at this point will be presenting drafts of the building typologies and some draft recommendations for designs. So I encourage everyone to attend.
What day is it again?
It's on Thursday, so 23rd.
23rd at 5:30.
At 5:30. Yeah, so, and Town Meeting TV will be covering it, so we'll have good AV.
And just assuming that gets adopted, that's effective immediately, correct? Or how's that work?
So with regulations, after the Planning Commission holds their public hearing and closes it, then they recommend it to City Council to adopt, and the City Council has to hold a public hearing for its adoption. So it's still the first step in the process, pretty much.
And what happens to things that have been submitted for application when there's a rule change?
So when City Council sets the hearing date is when the new draft regulations could take effect. So it's part of Vermont's early vesting rules. So any complete applications that come in before any rule changes, then they're subject to those rules. It's like the rules that are in effect when they applied. But at the same time, if the rules are subject to change because City Council has decided to set a public hearing, then any applications that I receive after the City Council has chosen to set the public hearing are subject to those draft rules, if that makes sense.
I think so. Okay.
So just to clarify, for instance, Franklin wouldn't fall under the new typology standards because it's already been submitted.
Well, this is not.
Well, in this case, you didn't get an application.
It's a sketch.
So it's a pre-application hearing. So depending on when City Council sets the hearing and when the applicant applies and submits a complete application, they may be subject to the rules that Council is considering at that time. So hypothetically, if Council were to set a hearing date next month for June and the applicant applies in late May, then they'll be subject to the rules that the City Council is considering at that time, if that makes sense.
And there's the potential that the Planning Commission could adopt these?
City Council, yeah.
I mean, the Planning Commission could propose them?
Yes.
They haven't proposed them to the City Council yet?
Not yet, but they're likely to recommend them to City Council, yeah.
Other city updates?
So I'm working with our neighboring cities to encourage infill housing and to learn more about how to build like an ADU and other small scale projects. So we're holding an event on May 16th from 9 to 11 at BCA. It's for anybody to learn more about how to put an accessory dwelling unit in your backyard or how to understand the process if you're completely new to the process. So something that I encourage you to attend if you're interested or spread the word about it. I think those are the main things that are on my mind.
Okay. What's next? Other business?
Yes.
Other business?
Very good.
I'm doing great here.
No other business.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn.
I will accept the motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, this meeting is adjourned. We will go into executive session. Thanks everyone for attending.